In Africa, $9,000 per capita income per year, a lot of natural resource wealth, small population, but high levels of inequity, 40% unemployment in the country.
Joseph Siegel, Director of Research at the African Center for Strategic Studies. Countries along the coast of West Africa have long been classified as transit stations for drug trafficking from South America to Europe and America. And it seems that the problem is getting worse. In Guinea, officials seized a vehicle linked to Sierra Leone's embassy in Conakry. The Guineans say it was stuffed full of cocaine and cash. Then, just weeks later, a fugitive convicted Dutch cocaine trafficker was said to have been spotted in the country attending a church service in the president's hometown. So, I was intrigued as to how President Julius Maada Bio might know Jos Lydekkers, Europe's most wanted criminal. I got Umaru Fofana, who is in Freetown, to tell me more.
Well, the man is Jos Lydekkers, who is a convicted cocaine trafficker in the Netherlands and is on Europe's most wanted list for his alleged role of trafficking drugs across Europe. And he is said to be the most wanted man, in fact, in the Netherlands. There's a 200,000 euro bounty on his head in his home country. Now, the Dutch Public Prosecution Service says that investigations show that he attended the New Year's Day service in Sierra Leone at the St. Joseph's Church, as did the president of Sierra Leone and his family in a small southern presidential hometown of Tion, just a couple of pews. He was alleged to be sitting from the president, Julius Maada Bio, inside the church. And a spokesman for the Dutch Prosecution Service says that they will do all they can to get Just back to serve his 24-year jail term in the Netherlands. The Dutch government says that the man apparently spotted in official State House pictures of the church service, whom they say is Jos, has been living in Sierra Leone for at least 6 months. Now, the Sierra Leone government says they are investigating the allegations, but they have neither denied nor confirmed that the man in the pictures is in fact Jos Lydekkers. But they stress that there has been no official request made to the government of Sierra Leone by the Dutch authorities for either his extradition or for anything else. So far, that's what we have.
Okay, do we know the relationship between this man, Jos, and the first family? How did he find himself, in the church service with the president in his hometown? I know church service is an open event, but tell us a bit more about the relationship.
Well, the allegations in the Dutch media include that Jos has a relationship with one of the daughters of President Julius Maada Bio, and that he was in that church at the behest of that daughter. The Information Minister, Chernobyl, says that he does not wish to comment on individual people's private life, and he considers whatever relationship there may or may not be between the president's daughter and Jos to be a private affair. So at the press conference, he would not comment on whether or not president's daughter and Jos were either married or whether they have any personal relationship whatsoever. In terms of why he found himself in the church service as the president, this is what Chernobyl had to say.
We, as the Sierra Leone government, have not received any...
We, the Sierra Leonean government, have not received any formal correspondence and had no reason to review at any point that if the individual of this sort was in our territorial region. And because of that, obviously we were not looking for a particular individual that has been reported or the issues that have been reported in the media. So this individual, I wouldn't say, was in the entourage of His Excellency. However, I would agree that there was an individual that is now the subject of speculation who was at the church service of His Excellency.
That is Chernobyl, Sierra Leone's Minister of Information.
So all this comes just weeks after the seizure in Guinea of a vehicle belonging to the Sierra Leone embassy there. How much do you know about that?
Apparently on New Year's Eve, on the 31st of December, an official Sierra Leone embassy vehicle was on its way to the capital of Guinea from Sierra Leone. but the driver was stopped by some members of the Guinean security forces, and they searched the vehicle, even though it had a Sierra Leone diplomatic registration number, which one would assume means that it cannot be subject to any search. But then it was searched, and they discovered packs of cocaine said to be anywhere around 285 kilograms inside the vehicle. So the vehicle was impounded. The driver was arrested, as was a passenger, somebody else who was inside the vehicle. And it was alleged that the ambassador in Guinea had something to do with it. So the Guinean authorities made a formal request to the government of Sierra Leone for the ambassador to have his immunity lifted so they would try him in Guinea-Conakry on drugs-related charges. But the government of Sierra Leone has up to this time not lifted his immunity. They've recalled him, but my information is that he cannot come because the Guinean authorities will not let him leave the country. The ambassador has not been arrested, apparently because of his diplomatic status, but then his recall has not happened because the Guinean authorities will not release him to come.
Okay, so how widespread is the issue of drugs in Sierra Leone? West Africa has been known to be a major transit point for the trafficking of cocaine from Latin America.
The indications are that, drug trafficking is very widespread in Sierra Leone. And in fact, last year, President Julius Maada Bio declared drug substance abuse in Sierra Leone as a public health emergency. He apparently had in mind the synthetic drug here known as Kush, which has been wreaking havoc on young people, but it was widely opened to include all drugs. And then before that happened, it's safe to say that some 12 or so years ago, a plane load of cocaine landed at the country's international airport in pitch darkness at the time. They were parking vehicles waiting for the passengers on board this aircraft who were whisked away by these waiting vehicles. They rammed into the perimeter fence and found their way in a typical Hollywood movie script kind of way. They rammed into the perimeter fence of the airport and escaped from the airport. Eventually, there was a manhunt and they were arrested. They were tried. Among them, 5 or 6 South Americans. And eventually, those South Americans were taken by the United States government to the United States to start their jail term and probably be subjected to further investigations and trials. So it's not new, but the indications had been that it had sort of reduced. But then recent happenings will suggest that it is still widespread in Sierra Leone. On the side of the local synthetic drug known as Kush, the government seems to have set up some structures in terms of dealing with those who abuse substance relating to Kush. In terms of cocaine, the assumption is that it is not really consumed in Sierra Leone. It's a transit point where it is brought into from South America and then shipped across the borders to either Guinea or Liberia and then taken to Europe or to the Americas.
I'm just wondering, when this post came online, what were people saying? What were people of Sierra Leone saying? What was the conversation online?
Conversation has been very heated. People have given the authorities a serious flack here. I mean, the fact that an embassy vehicle was, involved in it in Guinea, as was confirmed by both the government of Sierra Leone and the government of Guinea, people have been really pouring out outrage, condemnation, and urging the authorities to act. So the government has got a lot of PR to do. The fact that the allegations are that Jos has some ties to the first family will be something which has to be deeply investigated. And if any truth found in that, then actions taken. But there has been real anger and indignation as expressed on social media over these recent happenings.
Umaru Fofana, a journalist in Freetown. This is Focus in Africa from the BBC World Service.